your voice, your vote. This is ABC7 News.
It's Friday night, and we are still waiting to find out who will be the next president of the United States. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. Will it be Donald Trump or Joe Biden in the White House? The decision is coming down to just a few thousand votes in a handful of states. Here's how the Electoral College stands right now. 270 votes, of course, are needed to win. Right now, Biden has 253. Trump has 214. The map has not changed since Wednesday.
Races still haven't been called in 6 states. President Trump is leading the vote count in 2 of them, Alaska and North Carolina, but winning those is not enough to win the presidency. Biden needs 2 states out of Arizona, North Carolina, Nevada, and Georgia, or just the state of Pennsylvania alone. Trump needs 3 states out of Arizona, North Carolina, Nevada, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. Biden is leading in all those states except North Carolina.
It's all utterly fascinating. ABC7 News reporter Stephanie Sierra is following this closely, but I think we're having a problem with Stephanie's microphone. Is that right, Chris? Okay, we'll go to our piece and come back and talk with Stephanie live afterward.
In the home stretch of the 2020 presidential election, Joe Biden leading by slim margins in the 4 remaining battleground states, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and his home state of Pennsylvania. A declared win in Pennsylvania alone, with its 20 electoral votes, would put him on a path to the presidency. His supporters anxiously waiting.
Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well.
Meanwhile, President Trump is leading in North Carolina, continuing to send false messages on Twitter he won the presidency and touting unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud.
Democrat officials never believed they could win this election honestly. I really believe that. That's why they did the mail-in ballots, where there's tremendous corruption and fraud going on.
San Francisco Republican Party Chair John Dennis supports the president's fight.
Do I know for a fact that we know what the issues are? No, but there's certainly some smoke, and I think it's worth it to investigate to see if there's fire.
Today, the president's legal battles continue in 5 states, including Georgia, where elections officials have already declared a recount. Hours ago, Trump took to Twitter, claiming military ballots are missing in Georgia, while calling out the election integrity of Philadelphia.
What the president needs to do is, frankly, put his big boy pants on. He needs to acknowledge the fact that he lost, and he needs to congratulate the winner.
That's not helpful at all. Look, what we need to do is to make sure that both parties, both the president and Mr. Biden, feel like they got a fair shake in this election.
A fair shake the president hopes will end at the Supreme Court.
The Biden campaign is all set to go to the Supreme Court, because you know he's going to take this to the Supreme Court.
Bay Area trial lawyer Joe Cachet, who is the co-chair for Biden's California legal team, says that won't happen.
He's going the Gore v. Bush lawsuit to get the Supreme Court to say stop, throw out ballots, and start all over again. That's where he's going. It is a disgrace. It is a waste of taxpayers' dollars.
Now, Cachet went on to explain what Trump is trying to do with these lawsuits is simply extend the period of time until the vote count is finalized so he can try to challenge the Electoral College and take it to the Supreme Court. But again, he says it's very unlikely that will happen. Live in the studio, Stephanie Sierra, ABC7 News.
Yeah, Stephanie, speaking of lawsuits, we understand there is an update out of Nevada tonight. What's the latest there?
Yes, Dan, we just learned a federal judge in Nevada rejected the suit filed by Republican congressional candidates accusing a county elections office of illegally using a computer program to verify ballot signatures. In fact, Judge Andrew Gordon actually said there wasn't enough evidence to prove that.
Interesting. Several of these lawsuits have been tossed at this moment or dismissed. Thanks, Stephanie. As we wait for final results on the election, download the ABC7 News app, enable push alerts, and that way, when news breaks, you'll get an alert right there on your phone immediately. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
A post-election audit is already underway in San Mateo County to ensure the accuracy of results. ABC7 News reporter Chris Reyes got a first-hand look at how the process works and why it's an important part of making sure the public knows their vote is counted.
White is 0.
Using 3 10-sided dice, this team is randomly picking precincts to include in a manual tally. Just one of a number of ways that San Mateo County elections ensures accuracy of the vote.
And we get to 1% of the total votes cast. Those ballots in those batches that contain those ballots will then be pulled, and they will be manually reviewed by the human eye.
Just picking the precincts took at least 2 hours with a team of 4 on hand. Observers were welcome. Yo-Yo Choi is a candidate for city council in Millbrae. He wanted to see the process for himself because he's only ahead by about 40 votes. It's not lost on him that his race mirrors the much bigger one that everyone's watching.
Just like across the country, every single vote counts.
San Mateo County Elections runs a tight ship for making sure those ballots are counted. Every worker here goes through a rigorous background check. The technology is a closed system. Every single ballot is verified manually, and there's more.
In our operation here, we have a 2-person integrity process, and that is that wherever there is a live ballot, there must be at least 2 election workers in that room.
San Mateo County is expected to record its highest voter turnout ever. Voter education took place as early as September last year to build public trust. Trust they hope won't be eroded by what's happening on the national stage.
So it's unfortunate that 1 or 2% of the actual votes cast that are challenged tend to cast a negative picture on the electoral process.
The tally here begins on Monday. That process takes a week. It's open to the public. Voters also have until December 1st to cure their ballot should it be challenged in any way. In San Mateo, Chris Reyes for ABC7 News.
The stock market took a breather today after having its best week since April. The Dow was off nearly 67 points. The Nasdaq was up 4 and change. The S&P was down just a point.
The overwhelmingly blue Bay Area has a few locations, of course, where GOP support is strong. Solano County has the largest proportion of Republican voters in the Bay Area, and ABC7 News reporter Leslie Brinkley traveled there today to speak directly with voters about how they're feeling as the results of the presidential election continue to come in.
Solano County is diverse, stretching from the Bay deep into the Central Valley.
We have 260,000 registered voters. 60,000 of those approximately are registered as Republican.
Solano County obviously is a Republican stronghold because it has such a strong military presence with Travis Air Force Base.
Approximately 30% of those who voted by mail and 55% of those who went to the polls voted for President Trump here. This Biden supporter was surprised to hear the numbers.
I didn't realize there was that many Trump supporters here.
At this grocery store parking lot in Fairfield, it's not at all difficult to walk up to people, strike up a conversation, and find Trump supporters who are willing to talk. Some even mention they've gotten some backlash on social media for their views.
And I never would have thought in a million years that I would get some of the commentary on me just having a different opinion, me not being liberal.
I supported Trump, but a lot of people say that's racist, even though he did mention that he's going to donate $500+ billion towards black communities.
With people on Facebook, they badmouth Trump, and I always say President Trump. He's our president. It's just like tomorrow, if Biden is our president, I will say President Biden.
Going into the weekend, there could be more visible reactions.
I'm getting calls from organizers at the grassroots in Napa, Solano. We're getting calls in Marin County and, of course, Southern California.
However the election ends up, I'm not going to be protesting. I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to yell at people that supported Biden. Because at the end of the day, I think everybody wants the country to be better.
In Solano County, I'm Leslie Brinkley, ABC7 News.
Demonstrators gathered in Brentwood for a second straight day after a Trump supporter hung an effigy of Joe Biden outside his home. Sky 7 was over today's protest at Brentwood City Park. Nearby business owners boarded up their windows as a precaution. Overnight, vandals targeted the home where the effigy was displayed. A group of young people threw eggs at the house and broke the window of a truck parked in the driveway. This came after an angry confrontation earlier in the evening. Brentwood police are investigating the vandalism.
Senator Kamala Harris, who was born in Oakland and raised in Berkeley, is on the brink of making history. ABC7 News reporter Kate Larson spent the day speaking with friends and advisors from past and present.
Anyone who knows Kamala, knowing her as well as I do, she's very superstitious.
Longtime aide and advisor Debbie Meslow says Senator Kamala Harris is not taking anything for granted right now.
She's really looking at all the votes need to be counted before they're able to call a winner.
Meslow was by Harris's side while she was San Francisco District Attorney and California Attorney General.
She's never come at the role, as an ideologue. She's come at the role as a practical problem solver. Kamala's life and Kamala's story is the American story.
On Wednesday, Harris's family posted this video of her with her grandniece sharing some very practical advice.
No, you could be president, but not right now. You have to be over the age of 35.
I'm so proud of Kamala.
Carol Porter grew up with Harris in this West Berkeley neighborhood. 50 years later, her friend is very close to becoming the first woman, Black and Asian American, vice president-elect.
You know, it's very emotional.
They met in first grade when they were bused to Thousand Oaks Elementary in North Berkeley as part of a public school desegregation program. There's now a mural of Harris on campus.
Kamala is the same girl I stood in line with in first grade. She wants to solve problems. She wants to help people.
Dan Moraine is a Sacramento-based journalist who just wrote a biography on Harris to be published in January.
I've just found her to be a very interesting, multifaceted woman, and I have no doubt but that she's going to run for president.
I spoke to former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown today, who knows Harris well. He says it's incredible and that he wants to be a part of the historic triumph of a Californian and a woman. For ABC7 News, I'm Kate Larson.
Now, if Kamala Harris becomes vice president, California Governor Gavin Newsom will name someone to fill the vacated U.S. Senate seat. Among the possibilities is recently re-elected Congresswoman Barbara Lee, whose district includes Oakland. ABC7 News anchor Kristen Z spoke with Lee about the possibility on our 3 p.m. newscast today.
How would you feel about stepping into that position?
Listen, I'm watching these votes come in for Biden and Harris. Believe me, that's what I've been focusing on for the last, I don't know how many months. I've been campaigning hard in Arizona, all over the place. So I've been focused, quite frankly, on this election. And that's where we are, and that's where I am, just like everyone, counting and waiting.
I'm hearing, ask me again maybe in a month or two when the dust settles. But right now, your focus is on...
I'm saying I can't wait until we have a Biden-Harris victory. Right. I want to see every vote counted.
An excited Barbara Lee. To talk politics, let's bring in San Francisco Chronicle insider and ABC7 News contributor Phil Mateer. Phil, Kamala Harris would make history, as we said, as the first black woman to be vice president. She has a lot of history here in the Bay Area, born in Oakland, raised in Berkeley, and a lot of speculation about who Governor Newsom might pick to replace her in the U.S. Senate seat. What do you think, Barbara Lee or other contenders?
Well, there's so many to pick from, Dan. You know, you have Barbara Lee, you have Attorney General Javier Becerra, you have Secretary of State Alex Padilla, you have San Francisco Mayor London Breed, you have State Senate President Tony Atkins. The list just goes on and on and on of possibilities. Congressman Adam Schiff, who was big on the Intelligence Committee hearings. But, you know, there's time for the decision to be made. A lot of it depends on what Gavin Newsom is looking for. There'll be a certain amount of pressure to replace Kamala Harris with another woman of color. But politics is also a chessboard. For example, let's say he picked Javier Becerra, the Attorney General, and said, I'd like you to go to Washington and represent us. You're a former congressman. You're representing, you know, this would be a big move ahead for Latinos. And people said, well, what about women of color? He could turn around and say, well, I've got this woman of color I'm going to put in as Attorney General. How's that? So there's that sort of flow going on. But bottom line is, in brass knuckle politics, is you want to pick somebody who, one, agrees with you, two, that has been with you in the past. Let's say somebody that supported you when you ran for governor. And also somebody who you think is going to be with you in the future when you run for something else or seek re-election. And within that framework, all of those people fit.
Interesting.
Yeah, got to always be looking at the long game, too. Now, Phil, it has been a busy week, certainly. Let's try to look at the big picture. Let's talk about the Democratic Party now. Is it really a party of the working class, or is it now a party of elites?
You know, that is a debate that's going on right within the Democratic Party. And you can see it in some of the frustrations boiling over about Nancy Pelosi staying on as Speaker of the House, which she's going to do. But that is one of the things that's being raised. Has the Democratic Party evolved into the party of the elites, sort of akin to what the Republicans were in the 1950s? And that do they have a habit of trying to tell you what to do rather than listening to what you want to do? And if you look at the state-by-state breakdown of the votes, it's a shocker for Democrats. They were expecting a big blue wave. They did not get that. As all these states we're talking about, what the real shocker is, we're used to seeing the country divided by different states going different ways to add up for the Electoral College votes. But you look at those returns. Can you believe the returns in every state is within just a couple of percentage points? That shows that the Democrats did not sell their product. And the question is, are they out of touch? And have the Republicans taken over the middle America working class families? And to a large extent, the numbers we're seeing on the boards across the country show that they have.
Yeah, it's interesting, Phil.
That is so fascinating.
It is. Joe Biden got a record number of votes, more than any other presidential candidate, but Donald Trump increased his support from 4 years ago in terms of the total number of votes.
And if you would listen to the pollsters and to the pundits and to the Democrats that are leading up to this election, until the last week, they were talking about, you know, of course this guy's going to go down. It's going to be a blowout. It's a landslide. How could anybody vote? And you turn around, not only did they vote for him, they voted for other Republicans. So that says it's not just all about Trump. It's about which direction Americans feel that the country should go. And it's going to be, if it's Joe Biden in that White House, he is not walking into a big mandate. He's barely getting in, and he's got a pretty divided country ahead of him. Both do.
Yeah. Thank you, Phil. You can read Phil's column in the San Francisco Chronicle on Sundays and Wednesdays, and you can find the local results and track the race for president on our website. Go to abc7news.com/election.
All right, let's turn to the weather. It was windy enough today to ruffle some feathers on this seagull sitting by the bay in San Francisco. It's cold. Get a sweater, little guy. Or girl. I don't know.
Yeah. How do we tell? My feathers got a little ruffled today in this cold, Spencer.
I was going to say the same thing. My feathery hair, all 6 of them, got a little bit ruffled today. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. We had a sharp drop in temperatures, as you no doubt know. Check out this 24-hour temperature change. Now, it was a much starker contrast a few hours ago when the sun was still out, but even now, it's 22 degrees cooler in Fairfield than at this time last night, 18 degrees cooler in Concord, 9 degrees cooler in San Francisco and Oakland. Temperatures just really plummeted, along with the strong gusty wind, of course, and we had a few isolated cold showers. There may be more tonight. This is a view right now from the Exploratorium camera looking at only partly cloudy skies over the skyline of San Francisco, where it is 53 degrees right now, also 53 in Mountain View, 58 Oakland, San Jose 56, 52 at Gilroy and Half Moon Bay. It's chilly. Here's a view from Mount Tam looking down onto the bay, and at the moment we don't see a lot of clouds there, but more are likely to arrive later tonight. Currently, temperatures are in the low 50s at Santa Rosa, Novato, Napa, Fairfield 56, so mid-50s there, and Concord and Livermore 54 and 53 respectively. Here's a view from Emeryville. Looking back across the bay, the Bay Bridge is aglow with lights. These are our forecast features. Isolated showers are still possible during the overnight hours, mainly closer to the coast, but they could pop up just about anywhere. It'll be blustery and chilly through the weekend and into early next week. And early next week, we have some very cold mornings coming our way, although afternoons will be a bit milder next week than over the weekend. We still have rough surf right now. In fact, a high surf advisory remains in effect until midnight, so large waves are likely to be a bit erratic, risk of coastal erosion, but we expect the waters to settle down a bit tomorrow. Now, the current storm, the one that will be with us into early tomorrow, ranks 1 on the ABC7 storm impact scale. So, again, look for spotty showers, cold showers, high surf, chance of thunder and hail, slight chance there. And, of course, wind gusts from 25 to about 35 miles per hour. Here's our forecast animation taking us through the evening hours. Looks like best chance of some showers popping up, apart from offshore, will be around 9 o'clock tonight, then about 10 o'clock or so. So say between 8 and 11. That's about the best chance according to our current outlook. And then overnight looks like a diminishing chance of rain, and tomorrow a diminishing chance of rain for much of the day, although something could develop late tomorrow into Sunday as well. We're watching that one for you. We're also watching this. Snow in the Sierra. A winter storm warning is in effect, or will be, from 4 p.m. tomorrow to 4 p.m. Sunday. We're expecting generally about 3 to 8 inches of snow above 8,000 feet, but in the higher up elevations could be heavy snow, and travel, of course, will be difficult. Overnight, across the Bay Area, look for chillier conditions than we've had lately. Low temperatures in the North Bay valleys and farther north will drop into the 30s, mid to upper 30s there. Low 40s over much of the remainder of the North Bay. Out in the Inland East Bay, low to mid 40s will be the lows, right around the bay shoreline, upper 40s. So it's going to be quite a bit chillier tonight than the last few nights have been for sure. Tomorrow will be another breezy and chilly day with intervals of clouds and sun. Look for high temperatures ranging from about 55 at Half Moon Bay to 58 at San Francisco. Mainly 59, 60 degrees around the bay shoreline. Down in the South Bay, 60 at San Jose, 60 Morgan Hill. North Bay highs mainly upper 50s from San Rafael to Santa Rosa to Napa. The Inland East Bay, not much milder, 60 to 61 degrees there. So the temperature range tomorrow will be a rather narrow one. Here's the AccuWeather 7-day forecast. This colder air mass will be with us into next week. The daytime temperatures will be on the chilly side under blustery conditions through the weekend. The wind will calm down a bit going into next week, and some of the afternoon temperatures will start to rise a bit. But in the early morning hours, it's going to be really cold on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So prepare for early morning chill if you are going out early morning. Dan and Amma.
Our feathers ruffled today, and now an early morning chill coming. Spencer, what's happening?
It's the end of the world as we know it.
Thank you.
All right, well, this has certainly been a roller coaster of a historic week for our democracy, but was it really a surprise? We expected as much, which led to an extended assignment for ABC7 News reporter Wayne Friedman.
That's right. He always takes still photographs on stories as well. So we sent him loose this week, beginning on Monday. The subject, general subject, democracy.
This is a travelogue. It begins with a concept as solid as a rock and as fragile as this particular Monday before the election.
Hey, William. My name is Paul. I'm a volunteer with the Pennsylvania Democrats.
This is Grassroots on Concrete, a Mission District sidewalk where volunteers have taken up the ground game, as they call it. Democracy in action with 2020 foresight, they hope.
You know, my parents are immigrants from the former Soviet Union, so the idea of voting and the idea of being able to express what you want has always been a pretty critical thing for us in our household.
Calling voters is very stressful.
Are they nice?
Sometimes, but most often they are not.
The man behind this call center has become an institution in the Mission District, even at 31 years old. Manny Yukerio put up the booths and lets democracy happen.
If the elections are free and fair, then the institution of democracy still functions. If the election's tampered with, that's a different story. But if the question is, if he wins fairly, then the institution of this democratic government has done its job.
This journey through election week really began with a simple question. If you could write a letter to or have a conversation with democracy, what would you want to say at this moment in time? We put it out there on social media, got some interesting answers. Among them, tired, anxious, hopeful, said one. I'd ask democracy to please come back, said another. And as for some of the people we've already met,
get your act together.
We are in deep trouble. This is the final hour.
Indeed, literally.
Well, thank you very much.
As they continued making calls, the presidential candidates crisscrossed swing states.
This guy doesn't understand. He doesn't understand sacrifice. He doesn't understand. He talks about being a tough guy.
And yet, by then, most of us had already voted.
Are they signed and sealed correctly?
That's James Allen outside San Francisco City Hall. He lost count long ago of how many ballots he's collected. It's a temporary job, he says, and a permanent commitment.
Vote. Participate.
Here we found a uniquely San Francisco scene with security tight, unless it wasn't. And we also found a sense of urgency.
If you were to write a letter to democracy, what would be the first line of that letter?
We are losing you.
You make it sound like a love-lost letter.
Absolutely.
How so?
I serve this country in uniform. Very proud of the democracy we have, and I can see it slipping away.
And that is not only a Democratic Party point of view.
What is the first sentence?
We the people under God.
We've moved to Marin County now, where Republicans make up only 14% of registered voters. Donna Fife spent this day at the registrar's office working as an observer. She's a figurative stranger in a strange ideological land.
What are you looking for?
Freedom, liberty.
No, here, when you're observing, it says election observer.
Oh, I'm looking at the process. We're looking at the process. They have an established process, and we're looking to see if they're adhering to the process that they set up.
As the day ended, it seemed that mistrust of the system really does cut both ways. We finished with Sarah Nagel.
Dear democracy,
You really need to do better right now.
She writes a blog for the Marin Republican Party.
I believe democracy does work. I think at the moment, a lot of people have forgotten that we're really supposed to work together, though. It's become a winner-take-all scenario for a lot of people. I think we've lost a sense of belief in America right now. I think too many people, they're like people who are renovating a house and get bored, so they decide to tear the house down and build something new, instead of, accepting the fact that, you just need to repaint it and do a little bit of work.
On what the rest of the country considers to be a fringy leftist coast, this is what a constitutional revolution looks like. A blue wave, we might call it, especially at a place like the county courthouse in Oakland. For Mark and Rowena Ellerson, casting votes, a family event.
Dear democracy, help us to have a leader that can help us to take control of this coronavirus.
Dear democracy.
What the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing?
That's how you start the letter?
Yes.
And what's the second sentence?
Help.
Andrea Bates, a retired drug counselor, dressed in red this day, voting an act of faith. This election, almost like an exorcism.
I gotta believe in something. I believe in America. You understand? I believe that we can do better, and we're going to do better.
Democracy means to me freedom for all.
Now to Mary Campbell, with her daughter behind her, a day to remember for them on multiple levels.
This is her first time officially voting, and this is a big deal for her and for us.
A voice is a voice, whether small or big. Yes. It's your voice, and you should be heard.
We will remember 2020 as the no-touchy election, when we used tongs to vote in some places, when exercising our constitutional right looked more like a scene from a science fiction movie. And yet, with daily COVID-19 infections reaching new highs, we turned out in record numbers.
That we understand just how much is at stake in this election. We know that that has hit people because it matters enough that folks are willing to risk their life to do it.
And we did it in all kinds of spaces. Voting and democracy is about empowerment.
You have to fight for it. It is not given. It is a continuous exercise. It's a practice.
Lily Gangus is a Bolivian immigrant and now a force for Latinos in technology. On this election day, she's getting out the vote on Oakland streets. She's one of 32 million Latinos eligible to cast ballots.
Is it in danger?
Right now, I think we've seen the potential if we don't take care of it and if we take it for granted. But I think, if anything, there's democracy is more alive now than it's been before.
Hours later, Nevada, a watch event for Marin Republicans. Many of them did not want to be on camera for fear of losing friends. And yet there were others who sought my camera out. When we asked who might be willing to speak, Brooke Salamarian stepped forward. He expected a long night.
Well, I mean, I'm not entirely sure how this election is going to go. I don't really know what to anticipate, but regardless of the outcome, we have to respect the election.
But it wouldn't be that easy.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
It is worth noting that across the Bay Area, this election has generated a run on plywood. And in Oakland, also a run on paint.
I think it's just hoping for the best, and that's all we can do right now. To say we're hoping for the worst, expecting the worst isn't fair. We as a nation, we come together when we have to, and this is one of those times.
Make no mistake, our democracy is being tested in this election.
The voice of my great-granddaughter saying, save democracy now.
On the morning after, with what remained an uncertain outcome, we expected events like this outside Oakland City Hall.
Well, I think democracy was fine, but I don't have any faith in it in this country. I think I've lost it here.
Well, after he's not in power and he has no power, I will say he's a clown.
And yet, despite the frustration, no violence here, no vitriol, still hoping for the best while fearing that worst.
What's threatened is the right to vote, the right to assemble, the right to have freedom of speech, the right to have any kind of civil liberties, the right to be different than white Anglo-Saxon.
We think there's going to be a lot of litigation because we have so much evidence, so much proof, and it's going to end up perhaps at the highest court in the land.
As the day moved along, with more tallies of write-in ballots, the numbers began to change. By mid-afternoon in San Francisco, more hope and still trepidation.
The democracy is under attack. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
And on it went into the night.
Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well.
If you ever took democracy for granted, these last few days may have changed that. 270 electoral votes, no longer just a number. Thursday morning, and in the Mission, those booths where volunteers clutched that rock and made phone calls, now abandoned. Inside, a party, not over, but definitely on hold. And Mateo, still cautious. The man who told us on Monday that he trusts democracy now says this won't be over for him until January 20th, Inauguration Day.
I'm anxious. I'm suspicious of this man.
Even now.
Especially now.
What a fascinating look. And I always love all the still photos that Wayne takes.
Yeah, those moments in time, the still photos are so dramatic. And I know so many people have been so stressed, and it's all against the backdrop, of course, of the coronavirus, which just sort of magnifies everything. Yeah. But I suppose it's good to remember that, and you heard some of that, that what unites us is always stronger, Alma, than what divides us.
True, very true.
All right. Well, there was just another ballot dump in Arizona, Maricopa County to be exact. That's the Phoenix area. The county reported the results from nearly 72,000 ballots, and President Trump gained about 7,000 votes in this batch. That cuts Joe Biden's lead to just under 30,000. Experts say the pace at which the president is closing that gap might not be enough to overtake Biden.
We have been keeping a close eye on the 12 state propositions on California ballots. Today, we got final results on Prop 18. It failed. It would have allowed 17-year-old Californians to vote in primaries as long as they would have turned 18 before the general election. Several propositions are still too close to call, with ballots still being counted. They include Prop 14, which authorizes billions in general bonds to go to stem cell research. Also, Prop 15, an increase in commercial property taxes for education funding, and Prop 19, which would let homeowners 55 and older pay lower property taxes if they move, while raising taxes for some people with inherited property. 6 props, including Prop 18 that we mentioned, failed to get enough support. Also struck down was Prop 16, which would have restored affirmative action. Prop 20 was about parole restrictions. 21 was a rent control measure. 23 would have created requirements for kidney dialysis clinics. And Prop 25 would have eliminated the cash bail system. So far, 3 props have passed. Prop 17 restores the right to vote after a prison term. Prop 22 classifies app drivers as contractors, a big win for rideshare companies Uber and Lyft. And Prop 24 amends consumer privacy law.
Former San Francisco District Attorney George Gascon has won the race for Los Angeles County District Attorney. Gascon claimed victory shortly after incumbent Jackie Lacey conceded the race. She was the first woman and the first black person to run the office. Gascon outlined some of the immediate changes that he plans to make, including a promise to hold police accountable for unjustified killings.
We will immediately stop prosecuting children as adults. We have committed, and I have committed personally, to reopening some cases involving law enforcement uses of force. And I always made it clear that there may be other cases as well.
The former San Francisco police chief also says he will not pursue death penalty cases. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office is the largest in the nation. A Mountain View's police chief is stepping down. Chief Max Basel is retiring after 25 years on the department, the last 6 as the city's top cop. According to our media partner, the San Jose Mercury News, Basel implemented the use of body-worn cameras for his officers. He also adopted drug and alcohol diversion programs and modeled President Obama's 21st century policing pillars. Basel will be replaced by Deputy Chief Chris Shung. Shung has more than 30 years of law enforcement experience. He becomes Mountain View's 11th police chief, taking over for Basel on December 27th.
On the coronavirus front, it hasn't been a good day in the United States. For the second day in a row, there have been more than 100,000 cases. The number of newly diagnosed coronavirus cases in California is rising again. You can see it on this graph. More than 6,500 newly diagnosed cases were reported, the largest single-day jump since August. The 14-day positivity rate also trending upward. It's at 3.4%. That's a strong indicator of the transmission rate of the virus. Trader Joe's says more than 1,200 of its workers have been infected with the coronavirus since the pandemic started. The grocer says at least 2 of them have died from the virus. Trader Joe's has more than 500 stores, and about a quarter of them haven't reported a single positive case. There are about 53,000 workers, and if you do the math, about 2% of them have gotten sick. Santa Clara County provided an update today on its efforts to stop the spread of coronavirus. They emphasized the importance of getting tested and dispelled any myths that people could actually be putting themselves more at risk at a testing site.
You know, we make sure that there is enough space at our testing centers so that people can be physically distanced at least 6 feet apart, especially when they're waiting in line, when they're waiting to get tested, when they're filling out any type of paperwork. Also, everybody needs to be masked when they come to our test sites.
The county is also encouraging those who are essential workers to be tested regularly. For those who are concerned, the county recommends going to a drive-through site like the one currently at the fairgrounds. Disney's California Adventure is going to reopen on November 19th, but on a limited basis. Only a handful of stores and restaurants will be open, and all visitors will have their temperature checked, and anyone over the age of 2 will be required to wear a mask. Disneyland remains closed. In order for the major theme parks to reopen, a county has to be in the state's yellow tier. Disney is a parent company of ABC7.
The fight to end Alzheimer's takes to the streets tomorrow morning. This year, the San Francisco Walk to End Alzheimer's has a virtual route that can be completed anywhere. There's still time to sign up by texting ALZ Walk to 51-555. ABC7 has organized the team with the hope of smashing our $25,000 fundraising goal. So a lot of our folks are involved in this. You can join our team or make a donation at bit.ly/ABC7 Memory Makers. ABC7 is a proud sponsor of the walk. And just grab a sweatshirt tomorrow, Amma, for the walk, because you're going to need it.
Absolutely. Let's get to Spencer Christian to find out how long this chill's hanging around. Spencer.
Okay, I'm Dan. Well, it's going to be a pretty good day for a walk, especially if you walk briskly, because it's going to be rather chilly out there. But, you know, once you're out there with the group and you're walking for a good cause, and if you're bundled up, you're going to be fine. So here's a look at the ABC7 Storm Impact Scale. This system that is bringing us this windy, kind of blustery weather with the threat of some cold showers ranks 1 on the impact scale. So it's a storm of light intensity, but for tonight and early tomorrow morning, there's still a chance of some isolated showers, mainly near the coastline. Windy conditions from time to time with gusts about 25 to 35 miles per hour. And again, there is that chill factor. Here's a look at the forecast animation overnight. Looks like our best chance of showers will be in the nighttime hours tonight, around between 8 and 9, 8 and 11, I should say. And then after that, we don't expect much of a chance of showers. So going through the overnight hours, look for low temperatures mainly in the mid-40s, generally across the region. But up in the North Bay, some locations farther north will have lows dropping into the mid-30s. So it'll be pretty chilly up there. Then tomorrow, intervals of clouds and sun, breezy, chilly, highs ranging from only mid-50s at the coast to upper 50s to about 60 right around the bay shoreline. And most inland locations won't top out more than about higher than about 60, maybe 62 degrees. So again, a little bit of a winter-like chill across most of the area tomorrow. Here's a look at our winter storm warning for the Sierra. That's in effect from 4 p.m. tomorrow to 4 p.m. Sunday. We expect about 3 to 8 inches of snow above 4,000 feet. In the higher passes, of course, snow totals will be higher, but not many people will probably go up to those elevations, although travel could be difficult because of the snow at all levels. Here's the AccuWeather 7-day forecast. The chill that is with us now will continue into next week. Blustery and breezy over the weekend. The wind will settle down going into early next week, but it'll still be quite cold, especially in the morning hours on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But by midweek, at least we'll see the daytime temperatures beginning to rise a little bit to more comfortable levels.
Bearable levels.
More bearable, that's it.
Thanks, Matt.
All right.
All right, let's get to Sports Director Larry Beal, always looking on the bright side.
You know me, the ray of sunshine out here. You got to look long and hard to find many positives this season for the 49ers, but here is one item. Jimmy Garoppolo will not need surgery on his ankle. Garoppolo limped off the field on Sunday, didn't play Thursday. He aggravated that troublesome ankle that he injured back in the second game of the season. The latest diagnosis is that Jimmy G is going to need 4 to 6 weeks of rest and then he'll be reevaluated. No surgery expected. So it's possible Jimmy G could make a return late in the season for a Niners possible playoff push. You want to talk about a day late and a dollar short? The Niners had to hold out Kendrick Bourne, Brandon Ayuk, and Trent Williams because of a positive COVID test by Bourne. Looks like that was a false positive. All of them have since tested negative and have been reactivated. So back on the roster. They weren't allowed to play last night in the loss to Green Bay. Would they have made a big difference? Maybe, maybe not. We'll never know. One day after Cal had its game with Washington canceled, the Utah-Arizona game this weekend's been called off because the Utes have multiple positive COVID cases. But Stanford at Oregon is on. In fact, you can watch that game in prime time tomorrow afternoon, 4:30, right here on ABC7 as the long-awaited Pac-12 season begins. And it begins with precautions. The Cardinal, they're not allowing players from the Pacific Northwest to visit family on this trip. Of course, plenty of COVID tests. For Coach David Shaw, welcome to the new normal.
The trip is going to be a dystopian would be a little bit too harsh, very different, including testing before and before we get on the bus, before the game, and then the day after the game. So it's a different world, and from the very beginning, we've all said it. If we want to play football this year, this is what we have to do.
Don't get too many dystopian references in our sportscast, so we thank David for that, elevating the conversation. There was outrage the night the Dodgers won the World Series and Justin Turner joined the celebration despite testing positive for COVID-19. But Major League Baseball has said, forget about it. It's okay. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred said they investigated and admitted everybody could have done a better job, including assigning security to Turner to ensure that he actually stayed in isolation. For his part, Turner said, "I sincerely apologize to everyone on the field for failing to appreciate the risks of returning to the field." After serving a one-year suspension for his role in the Astros sign-stealing scandal, Alex Cora back where he was, managing the Boston Red Sox, the team rehiring him today. After Ron Renick served as the skipper in this shortened season, Cora led the Red Sox to the World Series title back in 2018. And we know when we'll see Steph Curry and the Warriors back on the court. The NBA League and Players Union have agreed to start next season December 22nd. Short turnaround for teams that went deep into the playoffs, just over 2 months of rest. So LeBron may have to skip a few games, Stan and Amma. Has to rest maybe because he might be tired. So
it's very taxing.
It's okay. It's okay. The Warriors, if he can't play some nights, well, we'll take over first place.
And we now know why David Shaw is at Stanford. I mean, at Stanford, he's throwing around big words. Impressive.
Dystopian, yeah. You got to look it up, kids. All right.
All right, coming up tonight on ABC7 at 8, it's a special edition of ABC News election coverage, followed by Shark Tank at 9. Then don't miss ABC7 News at 11.
Well, finally here tonight, a few thoughts about what really matters. As we have seen this week, democracy is a lot like sausage. It's great, but you might not like watching it being made. Our system of electing leaders can be as messy as it is magnificent. Despite flaws, it is the foundation of what makes America, America. Making sure every vote counts, no matter how long it takes or how it turns out, is the essence of our democracy, the essence of who we are. To call into question the integrity of that system without any evidence undermines an institution that we must protect and cherish. If there is evidence, we must protect and cherish our electoral system by exposing it. But baseless accusations cannot be allowed to manipulate it or to tarnish it. As messy as this week has been, the process is working exactly as it was designed to do. When that process concludes, half the country will be happy with the result and half will not. But what really matters is that every vote has been counted and that the next president was elected honestly by a system we can trust. I always love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Dan Ashley, ABC7.
All right, that is it for this edition of ABC7 News. Look for the news anytime on the ABC7 News app. We thank you so much for joining us. I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. For Spencer Christian, Larry Beal, all of us here, we appreciate your time. Hope you have a great evening. And join us again over on ABC7 tonight at 11.